So you've made the decision to sell your home, but you feel like you have no idea where to start. You may be feeling just a little bit overwhelmed and anxious about who you should hire, how much you should list your home for, what the paperwork looks like, and how much money you'll walk away with after closing. This is actually my first video in my new Seller Series playlist, and I created this playlist to serve as a reference point for anybody who's looking to sell their home, whether that be now or in the future. I'm going to help you understand all of the steps it takes to successfully sell your home, and then also give you some insight on my process so that you can see what it looks like to work with me. So in this first video, we're going to talk about the listing appointment. And if we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Stacey Russell, your Northwest Houston Realtor, educating buyers, sellers, and investors on all things real estate. Please do me a favor, and if you find value in this video, take a second to give it that thumbs up and like it so that it gets pushed out to more people who would benefit from videos on the selling process. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I drop new content every Thursday, and I would love for you to be along in that journey with me. And then lastly, of course, leave me comments below and let me know any questions that you have about the listing appointment or any other questions about the selling process. So whenever I have somebody reach out to me who would like to sell their house, I typically like to ask a couple of questions just to gather a little bit more information. So obviously I'm asking questions like, who are you? What is your address? How did you hear about me? Have you had any other listing appointments with any other agents? And then if they have any other information that they want to give me about why they are looking to sell, I'm happy to hear that. But ultimately, what I'm trying to do at that point in time is to set a face-to-face listing appointment where both of us can take about 45 minutes to an hour and a half to sit down and really go through the process of what it takes to list your home for sale. Once I have answers to the questions I asked in the initial phone call, I then have a little bit of research that I need to do before we sit down for our official listing appointment. I'm going to take the address that you gave me and plug them into a couple of different websites to get a little bit more information about the property. The first place that I'm going to plug your address in is the County Appraisal District. This is going to give me all of the property details like the number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, lot size, square footage, year built, and any other structures on the property I should be aware of, like a pool or a shed, if the garage is attached or detached. Then from there, it's also going to tell me all of the breakdown of your taxes. This is really going to help me understand if there are any required notices that need to be attached as part of the listing. The MLS is another great resource that I love to use because it will show me any time that your home has previously been on the market. And as a requirement of being on the MLS, you have to have a certain number of pictures uploaded to a listing. So it gives me a general idea of what the home looks like before I even step foot inside and see it for myself. Once I have all of the information about your property, I will then run a CMA or a comparative market analysis. And what this does is it's essentially a report that shows you and me what homes that are very similar to yours have sold for within the past 6 months. The listing appointment is a great opportunity for you to interview different agents and get a feel of what they're going to do for you, how they can help, and if you are a good fit to work together. If you have questions about interviewing agents, be sure to check out my video that's called Why You Should Always Interview More Than One Agent. Typically, my first step at any listing appointment is for the seller to give me a guided tour of their home. During this tour, I'm taking notes of any upgrades or updates that the seller has done to their home, taking note of any repairs that need to be made or have been made. I also want to get an understanding of what is conveying with the property and what is not conveying with the property, meaning what's staying in the home and not staying in the home once the seller has moved out. Once the home tour is over, the seller and I will sit down and have a conversation about pricing strategy. Obviously, the ultimate goal of the pricing strategy portion of this consultation is to get a much better understanding of where to set the list price. The seller makes the final decision on what the list price is for their home. My job is really just to help guide them to understand the importance of setting a competitive list price in terms of an appraisal and how an appraiser will create an opinion of value. I explained to the seller that when I run comps, I really try hard to look at comparable properties through the eyes of an appraiser in order to justify the list price and have no hiccups when it comes time for an appraisal. We will then take a look at all of the comparable properties that were on my CMA or comparative market analysis. This is really a great opportunity for me and the sellers to sit down together and look at pictures of the listings to see which ones are the most similar to the seller's home. We're also going to look at a lot of other data like days on market, any kind of listing history where I can see if price drops were made and how frequently they were made, if it was pending and then had to go back on the market, and if the property had ever been expired, terminated, or withdrawn. And lastly, I'll be able to show the seller the sold terms of any comparable property. So I'll be able to find out if the sellers paid any portion of the buyer's closing costs, if there were any repairs made by the seller, and if so, how much those repairs were, who paid for the title policy, which is a negotiable in the contract, and how was the home purchased? Was it purchased with cash or a loan? And then was that loan FHA, VA, conventional, etc., etc. Once we have the conversation about price, I like to talk about marketing. And this is really my opportunity to explain to the seller all of the things that I'm going to do to properly market their home so that it reaches the most amount of buyers possible. I talk about the services that I offer, like staging, professional photography, print and digital marketing, property boosts, social media marketing, open houses, and agent-to-agent marketing. Once the seller is clear on everything that I do in my services to try to get more buyers into the home and more offers in the seller's hand, then I go into asking if the sellers have any questions for me. This is the opportunity for sellers to ask me anything and everything and for me to have an open and honest conversation in my responses. In my process, the last step of any listing appointment is to discuss the exclusive right to sell listing agreement. This is essentially an employment contract between my broker and you as a seller, and everything in it is negotiable. Now, because this is the first video of my seller series playlist, and we're talking about listing consultations, we're not really going to go into depth on all of the negotiables of this employment contract, but please be on the lookout for that in future videos. My ultimate goal in any listing appointment is to show the sellers my value and expertise in a way that they feel confident moving forward with me as their agent of choice. And if we feel like we're both a good fit to work together, then I will typically see if they are willing to sign the listing agreement right then and there. This allows me to act as their agent exclusively, and they move from being a customer to a client. In the event that a seller is just not ready to sign the listing agreement at the appointment, I am understanding. I totally understand that you may not want to sign a contract with an agent that you just met. And I would never want somebody to ever feel pressured to have to sign something when they're not ready to do so. So at that point, my job becomes to continue to show you my value and my expertise until you are ready to make a decision. So now you see why we need about 45 minutes to an hour and a half of time to get all of these parts of the listing process put into play. So at the end of your listing appointment, you should feel a lot more confident in what your list price will be, what marketing is going to happen when your home goes on the market, what the selling process looks like, and hopefully you'll find an agent that you love working with. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.